A black wife faces jail for a lie, only to expose her husband's deadly plot. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to catch our latest epic stories. David Johnson's accusing finger jabbed through the air of the Los Angeles County Family Court, his voice a venomous roar that silenced the packed gallery, his pale face twisted with rage as he pointed at his estranged black wife, Maya Johnson, and bellowed, "She's a liar, a cheat who slept with our neighbor Tom Reynolds and plotted to kill me so they could run off with my insurance money." The oak-paneled courtroom erupted, spectators gasping, their whispers, "She's guilty." And what a disgrace, a vicious wave that crashed over Maya, a 35-year-old woman standing at the defendant's table, her elegant frame steady in a simple navy dress, her dark eyes blazing with a defiance that burned through the storm of lies threatening to drown her. The sleek, modern room, with its glass walls and polished benches, buzzed with the weight of a divorce trial turned criminal. David's tailored suit and cold smirk, a stark contrast to the malice in his accusations. Each word a calculated strike to bury Maya before Judge Margaret Ellison, a stern woman whose gray eyes narrowed with prejudice, her voice sharp as she leaned forward. "Mrs. Johnson, these are heinous charges, adultery and conspiracy to murder your husband with intent to flee. How do you respond?" The gallery's murmurs swelled, fueled by David's lawyer, Charles Warner, who paced with a predatory grin, his voice dripping with contempt. "Your Honor, Maya Johnson's betrayal is undeniable. Incriminating texts, staged photographs, a recorded threat to Mr. Johnson's life. She's a danger, unfit for any share of the estate." Maya's heart thundered, her hands steady despite the weight of the fabrication, her mind racing with the truth she'd yet to unveil. She wasn't just a scorned spouse, she was a former paralegal with a keen intellect, who'd spent months unraveling David's web of deceit, and she was ready to fight. "I'm representing myself, Your Honor," Maya declared to Ahayam, her voice clear and resonant, slicing through the courtroom's din like a blade, drawing gasps from the gallery and a scowl from Ellison, whose lips pursed in disdain. "Self-representation? You're out of your league, Miss Johnson. This court isn't a stage for amateurs." The word amateurs was a barb, laced with the racism Maya had battled her entire life. On Compton streets, in corporate offices, in the upscale Brentwood neighborhood where her marriage to David had sparked whispers. Warner pounced, his voice oily with confidence. "Your Honor, Mrs. Johnson's denial is a desperate dodge. She betrayed her husband with Reynolds, a known troublemaker, and planned to kill him for $1 million payout." The gallery nodded, their prejudice a suffocating force, but Maya's gaze locked onto David's, then Ellison's. A silent vow that she wasn't the prey they assumed. She'd uncovered cracks in David's story, manipulated texts, a sudden insurance policy hike, his secretive meetings with a business associate, and she suspected a motive far sinister than divorce. "May I address the court, Your Honor?" Maya asked. Her tone measured, her words precise, and Ellison, caught off guard by her composure, nodded grudgingly, her skepticism a heavy veil. "The prosecution's evidence is a sham," Maya began, her voice rising, each syllable a defiant challenge. "The texts are doctored, the photos fabricated, and the recorded threat? It's a spliced audio, not my voice. This isn't a trial, it's a setup, and I'll prove it." The courtroom exploded, spectators gasping, reporters scribbling, and Warner's grin wavered, his eyes darting to David, whose smirk twitched with unease. Ellison slammed her gavel, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Order, Mrs. Johnson, you're making baseless claims with no evidence. This court won't tolerate wild accusations." But Maya's smile was steely, her mind racing. She had proof, a neighbor's security camera capturing David's suspicious actions, a bank transfer to an unknown account. But she held back, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The gallery's jeers grew louder. "Liar, and she's playing the victim." But a lone voice, a black woman in the back, shouted, Let her speak. Ellison's face flushed, but she allowed Maya to continue, her disdain palpable. I'm only getting started. Your Honor, Maya said, her voice a low growl, her eyes boring into David's, whose unease deepened into a flicker of fear. The truth is coming, and it'll tear this lie apart. The courtroom stilled, the weight of her promise a tangible force, and Maya Johnson, no traitor but a warrior, stood poised to ignite a fire that would burn through the deception. Her evidence, a spark ready to set the Los Angeles court ablaze with justice. The Los Angeles sunset cast a fiery glow over the manicured lawns of Brentwood. But for Maya Johnson, stepping out of the Los Angeles County Family Court into the humid evening air, the warmth felt like a spotlight on a battlefield, illuminating the weight of a trial that had branded her an adulterer and would-be murderer in the eyes of a city quick to judge. Her elegant frame moved swiftly through the swarm of reporters, their cameras flashing and questions piercing. Maya, did you cheat with Tom Reynolds? And are you really a killer? As she slipped into a waiting rideshare, her dark eyes sharp with resolve, her heart still pounding from the courtroom clash where her estranged white husband, David Johnson, had pointed an accusing finger. His voice a venomous roar claiming she'd betrayed him with their neighbor and plotted his death for $1 million insurance payout. The sting of Judge Margaret Ellison's prejudiced dismissal and Charles Warner's smug accusations lingered, their words laced with racism that had echoed through the gallery's jeers. But Maya, a former paralegal with a mind honed by years in legal trenches, was far from broken. She'd stood tall, declaring the evidence, texts, photos, a supposed threat, a fabrication, a vow that had shaken David's smirk and Warner's confidence. Though the truth she held, a neighbor's security camera, a suspicious bank transfer, remained hidden, waiting for the perfect strike. Back in her small apartment, a stark contrast to the Brentwood mansion she'd shared with David, Maya faced a different kind of trial, the community's scorn. Neighbors who'd once smiled now turned away, their whispers, "She's trouble," and always knew she didn't belong, cutting deeper than the courtroom's taunts, their prejudice a mirror of the gated enclave's unease with her black presence. David's friends, a clique of affluent Angelenos, fueled the fire, spreading rumors on social media, their posts branding Maya a gold digger and criminal, some laced with racial slurs that twisted the knife. Her phone buzzed with messages from former colleagues, once allies, now distant. "I'm sorry, Maya, but we can't get involved." The isolation was suffocating. But Maya's resolve was iron, her late nights spent at a cluttered desk, her laptop glowing with files she'd gathered since suspecting David's motives months ago. The insurance policy doubled without her knowledge, the late-night calls he'd dismissed as business, the sudden hostility after she questioned his finances, all pointed to a plan darker than divorce. She wasn't just fighting for her freedom. She was fighting to uncover a truth that could save her life. At a local coffee shop, Maya met her only ally, her sister, Lena, a social worker whose fierce eyes mirrored her own, her voice low with urgency. "David's playing dirty, Maya. I checked, his company's in debt. And that insurance policy? It's his lifeline. He's setting you up." Lena's words confirmed Maya's fears, and she shared a discovery, a bank statement, found in David's old files, showing a $50,000 transfer to an offshore account, timed with the policy change. "He's hiding something," Maya said, her voice a low growl. "And I think it's more than money." Lena nodded, slipping Maya a USB drive. "Tom Reynolds gave me this, security footage from his porch. Said David was snooping around his place last month." Maya's pulse quickened, the footage a potential key to unraveling David's lies. But she kept it close, knowing the risk of exposing it too soon. The community's judgment grew harsher. Her mailbox was stuffed with hate mail, her car tires slashed, a note scrawled with "leave or else." David's influence was everywhere, his friends circling like vultures. One, a realtor named Karen, confronting Maya at the grocery store, her voice dripping with venom. "You thought you could ruin David? You're nothing here." Maya met her gaze, her voice steady. "Keep talking, Karen. Every word's a nail in his coffin." The threat hung heavy, Karen's face paling. But Maya walked away, her heart racing with the fire of a woman who'd learned to fight in a world that never gave her a pass. That night, Maya reviewed the footage, her breath catching as it showed David lurking near Tom's house, a shadowy figure slipping something into a mailbox, a burner phone, perhaps, or a note, his movements furtive, his face clear under the camera's glare. The discovery was a bombshell, but dangerous. David's wealth gave him reach, and the court's bias, led by Ellison, was a wall. At a community center, Maya overheard whispers of David's new friend, a woman seen at his office, fueling her suspicion of a deeper betrayal. She reached out to Tom, a quiet carpenter who'd kept his distance since the rumors, his voice cautious over the phone. "Maya, I know you didn't do it. I've got more texts David sent me, trying to set me up. I'll help." His promise was a lifeline, but the danger was palpable. A black SUV idled outside her apartment, its driver obscured, a silent threat that echoed the note in her mailbox. The city was a chessboard, the courtroom looming, and Maya Johnson was no traitor. She was a warrior, a paralegal, a woman whose evidence was a spark ready to ignite a fire that would burn through David's lies. Her sister and Tom, her allies, as she braced for a fight that would redefine justice in Los Angeles. The Los Angeles County Family Court was a furnace of seething tension, its glass walls amplifying the glare of fluorescent lights as the packed gallery's murmurs swelled into a venomous roar, their eyes boring into Maya Johnson, a 35-year-old black woman standing resolute at the defendant's table, her navy dress a stark contrast to the storm of accusations threatening to shatter her life. The sleek courtroom pulsed with the weight of a divorce trial twisted into a criminal conspiracy. Her estranged white-owned husband, David Johnson, seated across the aisle, his tailored suit and icy smirk a facade for the malice in his claims that Maya had betrayed him with their neighbor, Tom Reynolds, and plotted to murder him for $1 million insurance payout. Judge Margaret Ellison, her stern face etched with prejudice, leaned forward from her elevated bench, her gray eyes cold as she fixed Maya with a stare that cut like a blade, her voice sharp with disdain. "Mrs. Johnson, the evidence against you is mounting. Adultery, conspiracy to commit murder. Your denials are wearing thin. Do you have anything substantial? Or are we wasting time?" The gallery's jeers, "She's guilty," and "Lock her up," erupted, fueled by David's lawyer, Charles Warner, who strode before the bench, his polished shoes glinting, his voice a venomous blend of confidence and contempt as he unveiled what he called undeniable proof to bury Maya. Her heart thundered, not from fear but from the fire of a truth she held in reserve, her mind honed by years as a paralegal. Her evidence, security footage, a suspicious bank transfer, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Warner raised a tablet, his smirk widening as he projected a series of text messages, allegedly between Maya and Tom, laced with romantic undertones and veiled threats against David. Their timestamps pristine, but their tone suspiciously theatrical. "Exhibit A, B," Warner declared, his voice booming. Proof of Madame Johnson's affair and her intent to eliminate her husband. The gallery gasped, their whispers swelling, and Warner pressed on, displaying a grainy photo of Maya and Tom in a car, their faces close. The image doctored to suggest intimacy. Exhibit B, a photograph capturing their illicit rendezvous. Maya's jaw tightened, recognizing the photo as a manipulation, a moment from a neighborly carpool twisted into a lie. Warner's final blow was a chilling audio clip, played over the courtroom's speakers. A woman's voice, eerily similar to Maya's, hissing, "David's worth more dead than alive." The gallery roared, their prejudice a palpable force, and Ellison banged her gavel, her voice dripping with bias. "This is damning, Mrs. Johnson. Your self-defense is crumbling. Speak, or we move to sentencing." The word sentencing was a guillotine to her on. The courtroom's air suffocating, but Maya stood taller, her hands steady, her gaze locking onto Ellison's, then David's. whose smirk faltered under the weight of her silence. She wasn't just a defendant, she was a warrior, a woman who'd uncovered David's deceit, and she'd fight to expose the rot behind his lies. Permission to respond. "Your Honor," Maya said, her voice clear, cutting through the gallery's jeers like a blade, drawing gasps from spectators and a scowl from Ellison, who nodded grudgingly, her disdain a heavy veil. "The prosecution's evidence is a house of lies," Maya began, her words sharp, each syllable a defiant strike. "Those texts, their metadata's missing, a sign of tampering. The photo, edited, check the shadows. They don't align. And that audio, it's a deep fake, not my voice. I've got forensic proof, and I'll show this is a setup to frame me." The courtroom erupted, reporters scribbling, Warner's face paling as he scrambled to interrupt, his voice shrill. "Objection! This is baseless! She has no such proof!" But Ellison's gavel paused, her eyes narrowing, a flicker of doubt crossing her face as Maya's command of the room grew undeniable. David's hands clenched, his sweat visible, and Maya saw the crack in their armor, a sign her words had struck deep. "You're treading on thin ice, Mrs. Johnson," Ellison warned, her voice a low growl, but Maya's smile was cold, her mind racing. She had Tom's security footage showing David's suspicious actions, a bank transfer linking him to a shady contact, but revealing them now risked tipping her hand too soon. Warner, recovering, smirked, his voice oily. "Your Honor, this is a desperate act from a guilty woman. Let's proceed with the sentencing she deserves." The gallery cheered, their hate a tidal wave, but Maya's gaze never wavered, her heart a furnace of resolve. She wasn't just fighting David's lies. She was fighting a system that judged her skin before her truth, a judge who saw her as less, a husband who turned love into a trap, a lone supporter. A black woman in the gallery shouted, "Tell the truth, Maya," and others joined, their voices a spark in the darkness. "I'm not finished, Your Honor," Maya said, her voice a vow, her eyes piercing David's, whose fear now flickered openly. "The real conspiracy is here, and I'll burn it down." The courtroom stilled, the weight of her promise a force, and Maya Johnson, no criminal but a warrior, stood ready to turn their lies into ashes, her evidence a flame poised to set Los Angeles ablaze with justice. The Los Angeles County Family Court was a crucible of raw emotion, its glass walls trembling under the weight of a gallery packed with spectators, their gasps and murmurs a volatile storm as Maya Johnson stood at the defendant's table, her elegant 35-year-old frame unyielding in a navy dress, her dark eyes blazing with a defiance that had weathered the barrage of lies hurled by her estranged white husband, David Johnson, and his lawyer, Charles Warner. The sleek courtroom pulsed with the tension of a divorce trial turned criminal conspiracy. David's accusations that Maya had betrayed him with their neighbor, Tom Reynolds, and plotted to murder him for $1 million insurance payout, amplified by fabricated texts, doctored photos, and a deep-fake audio clip, all designed to bury her. Judge Margaret Ellison, her stern face a mask of prejudice, leaned forward, her gray eyes cold as she prepared to deliver a ruling, her voice sharp with disdain. "Mrs. Johnson, your claims of a setup are unsupported, and the evidence against you is overwhelming. This court is ready to proceed with sentencing for conspiracy to commit murder." The gallery's jeers, "She's done," and "Justice," swelled, Warner's smirk gleaming, David's icy grin a silent triumph. But Maya stood taller, her hands steady, her heart pounding with the fire of a truth she'd held in reserve. Her evidence, security footage, a bank transfer, mushroom, poised to strike. She wasn't just a defendant, she was a former paralegal, a warrior whose intellect had unraveled David's deceit, and she sensed the moment was near. "Your Honor, I have one final statement," Maya said, her voice clear, cutting through the courtroom's din like a blade, drawing gasps from the gallery and a scowl from Ellison, who waved a hand, her impatience palpable. "Make it quick, Mrs. Johnson. You're testing this court's patience." Maya's gaze locked onto David's, then Warner's, a silent vow that their lies were about to crumble. But before she could speak, the courtroom doors swung open, and Tom Reynolds, a burly carpenter with a weathered face, strode in, his presence commanding, his voice booming. "I have evidence to present, Your Honor, and it'll change everything." The room erupted, spectators whispering, reporters surging, and Ellison's gavel slammed, her voice shrill. "Who are you? This is highly irregular." But Tom, undeterred, stepped forward, a USB drive in hand, his eyes meeting Maya's with a nod of solidarity. "I'm Tom Reynolds, the man they claim she's cheating with, and I'm here to set the record straight." David's face paled, his grin vanishing, and Warner's objection, "This is inadmissible," was drowned by the gallery's uproar. Ellison, her composure cracking, allowed Tom to approach, her skepticism a thin veil. Maya's pulse raced, her ally's arrival the spark she'd waited for, and Tom plugged the drive into the courtroom system, the screen flaring with a video David and Ellison caught on a hotel security camera. Their embrace unmistakable, their whispers audible. "She's a problem. Margaret, if we can't kill her, we'll lock her up." The courtroom exploded, gasps turning to shouts, activists chanting truth, while David's supporters booed, their divide a mirror of Los Angeles' fractured soul. Tom's voice rose, steady and resolute. "They planned to frame Maya, to kill her for the insurance. But when I caught David tampering with my car, rigging the brakes, they switched to this lie." He played a second file, a recorded call between David and Ellison, her voice chilling. "The evidence is set. She'll be in jail by next week." The gallery roared, reporters scrambling, and Ellison's face drained of color, her gavel frozen as she stammered, This is out of order." But Maya seized the moment, her voice a thunderclap. "Out of order? Your Honor, you're the one out of order, colluding with my husband to frame me, to kill me. I have more, bank transfers from David to a hitman, stopped only because Tom intervened. You thought you could bury me because of my skin, but you're done." The courtroom was a maelstrom, David slumping in his seat, his hands trembling, Warner's face ashen as he fumbled his notes, and Ellison's authority collapsed, her voice hoarse. I need a recess." But the gallery's cheers drowned her, led by a black woman shouting, "Maya's the truth," and others joining, their applause a tidal wave. Tom handed Maya a folder. Additional evidence, text from David plotting the setup, intercepted by a hacker friend, cementing the case. The bailiff restrained David, who shouted, "She's lying!" But his desperation was futile. His plot exposed. Warner tried to object, but his voice was lost in the chaos, the courtroom turning against him. Maya stood tall, her heart racing, the weight of her fight lifting as the truth took hold. But she knew the battle wasn't over. Ellison's influence, David's wealth, their allies in the system would fight back. Lena, her sister, slipped into the gallery, her eyes shining with pride, a silent vow of support. The courtroom was a crucible, Los Angeles a chessboard, and Maya Johnson was no criminal. She was a warrior, a paralegal, a beacon, her evidence a flame that had set the court ablaze, her allies by her side as she braced for a fight that would redefine justice. The Los Angeles twilight draped Brentwood in a haze of amber and shadow. But for Maya Johnson, stepping out of her modest apartment into the humid night, the city's glow felt like a spotlight on a war zone, illuminating the scars of a courtroom battle that had shaken the Los Angeles County Family Court and exposed a chilling truth. Her elegant 35-year-old frame moved with purpose, her dark eyes sharp with the resolve that had carried her through the storm of her estranged white husband. David Johnson's accusations, infidelity with neighbor Tom Reynolds, and a plot to murder him for $1 million insurance payout, lies shattered by Tom's bombshell testimony. A hotel video and recorded call proving David and Judge Margaret Ellison were lovers, conspiring to kill Maya and, when that failed, frame her for conspiracy. The courtroom had erupted, David's smug grin collapsing, Ellison's authority crumbling. But Maya, a former paralegal with a mind like a steel trap, knew the fight was far from over. Their wealth and influence were a fortress, and the truth, though ignited, needed more fuel to burn them down. Her small apartment, a refuge from the Brentwood mansion she'd shared with David, was now a command center. Its cluttered desk piled with evidence, security footage, bank transfers, intercepted text that pointed to a conspiracy deeper than she'd imagined. The community's reaction was a crucible. Neighbors who'd shunned her now whispered in confusion, some offering hesitant nods, while David's affluent friends, a tight-knit clique of Los Angeles elites, doubled down, flooding social media with posts branding Maya a liar and homewrecker, their racial slurs a constant sting. At a local diner, Maya met Tom Reynolds, the carpenter whose courage had turned the tide, his weathered face tense as he slid a new USB drive across the table, his voice low. "Found this in my mailbox, a burner phone David used to contact Ellison. It's got more calls. Maya, talking about finishing the job. He's not done." Maya's pulse quickened, the drive a potential key to unraveling the full scope of David's plan. But she knew the risk. David's real estate empire gave him allies, and Ellison's judicial clout was a shield. Her sister, Lena, a social worker with a fierce spirit, joined them, her eyes blazing. "I dug into David's finances," Lena said, handing Maya a folder. "His company's bleeding money, debts, bad deals. That insurance policy was his way out, but you were the target." The folder revealed a second transfer, $100,000 to a known fixer, stopped only when Tom noticed David tampering with Maya's car brakes. The evidence was damning, but dangerous. Exposing it meant challenging a system that favored David's wealth and Ellison's power. Maya enlisted a new ally, Sarah Kim, a tenacious civil rights lawyer recommended by Lena, whose sharp mind and fearless reputation made her a perfect partner. At Sarah's downtown office, a sleek space lined with case files, they pored over the burner phone's recordings, capturing Ellison's voice. "If the frame fails, we need another accident." Maya's blood ran cold, the words confirming her fears. David and Ellison weren't just lovers, they were predators, and she was their prey. Sarah's voice was firm. "We've got enough for a criminal complaint, but we need more to take down Ellison. She's got friends in high places." Maya nodded, her jaw tight, her mind racing. She'd found a paper trail, a hidden account linked to Ellison's campaign fund, funneling money from David's firm, a bribe to secure her loyalty. The community's divide deepened. Activists from Compton and South LA rallied at City Hall, their signs reading "Justice for Maya," while David's clique, led by his realtor friend Karen, smeared her in local news, calling her unstable and vindictive. Karen confronted Maya at a community center, her voice a hiss. "You'll never win, Maya. David's too powerful." Maya met her gaze, her voice steady. "Power doesn't hide the truth, Karen. Watch him fall." The encounter left Karen rattled, but the threats escalated. A brick crashed through Maya's apartment window, a note tied to it, "Stop, or you're dead." Lena, staying over, pulled Maya close, her voice fierce. "They're scared, sis. That means you're close." The next day, Maya and Sarah met a hacker contact, a former client of Sarah's, who recovered deleted emails from Ellison's private server, revealing a meeting with David to handle Maya before the trial. The emails were a goldmine, but the danger was palpable. Tom reported a break-in at his house, his security system disabled, a warning to back off. At a rally organized by activists, Maya spoke, her voice resonant. "They tried to break me, but I'm still here, and I'm not alone. We'll fight until the truth wins." The crowd cheered, their applause a shield, but as she left, a black SUV trailed her, its driver obscured, a silent threat that echoed the brick's warning. Sarah secured a meeting with the DA, presenting their evidence, but the DA cautioned, "Ellison's connected. You need airtight proof, or they'll bury you." Maya's heart raced, her evidence, footage, emails, recordings, a ticking bomb. But the system's reach was vast. David's wealth a weapon, Ellison's power a wall. Los Angeles was a crucible, the courtroom looming. And Maya Johnson was no criminal. She was a warrior, a paralegal, a beacon. Her evidence a flame ready to burn through the lies. Her allies by her side as she braced for a fight that would redefine justice. The Los Angeles County Family Court was a tempest of raw anticipation, its glass walls vibrating with the electric hum of a gallery packed to bursting. Their murmurs a volatile mix of outrage and hope as Maya Johnson stood at the defendant's table. Her elegant 35-year-old frame, a pillar of defiance in a tailored blazer. Her dark eyes blazing with a fire that had already scorched the lies of her estranged white husband, David Johnson, and his co-conspirator, Judge Margaret Ellison. The sleek courtroom pulsed with the weight of a divorce trial turned criminal expose. David's accusations that Maya had betrayed him with neighbor Tom Reynolds and plotted to murder him for a $1 million insurance payout, shattered by Tom's testimony. A hotel video and recorded call proving David and Ellison were lovers, plotting to kill Maya and, when that failed, frame her for conspiracy. Today's hearing, a critical juncture to dismiss the charges and advance Maya's countersuit for attempted murder and defamation, was a battlefield where truth would either triumph or be buried. And Maya, a former paralegal with a mind like a steel trap, was ready to deliver the killing blow. Ellison, stripped of her robe pending investigation but still wielding influence, sat in the gallery, her stern face pale, her gray eyes darting nervously, while David, his tailored suit a mask for panic, gripped his chair, his icy smirk gone. Charles Warner, David's lawyer, rose, his polished demeanor fraying, his voice a desperate plea. Your Honor, the defense's so-called evidence is a fabrication, a ploy to smear an innocent man. We demand sanctions for this slander. The gallery buzzed. David's supporters, wealthy Brentwood elites, nodding. But Maya's allies, OIMS, activists, South LA organizers, her sister Lena, leaned forward, their eyes fierce. Judge Harold Nguyen, a new appointee replacing Ellison, raised a hand, his voice calm but firm. Mr. Warner, the court will hear Mrs. Johnson's evidence. Proceed, Ms. Johnson. Maya stepped forward, her presence commanding, her voice a thunderclap that silenced the room. Your Honor, David Johnson and Margaret Ellison didn't just frame me, they tried to kill me, and I'll prove it. Gasps rippled through the gallery, cameras flashing, and Maya, joined by her lawyer, Sarah Kim, produced a tablet, its screen flaring with Tom's security footage. David tampering with Maya's car brakes, his face clear, his movements deliberate. This was their first attempt, Maya said, her words a blade, stopped only because Tom intervened. The courtroom roared, activists chanting justice, while David's allies booed, their divide a mirror of Los Angeles's fractured heart. Sarah played a second file, intercepted emails from Ellison's private server, recovered by a hacker, detailing her and David's plan to eliminate Maya, followed by a bank transfer of $100,000 from David to a known fixer, halted when the plot failed. This is their conspiracy, Maya declared, her gaze locking onto David's, whose hands shook, his face ashen. They fabricated texts, photos, and audio to frame me, to cover their own crime. Warner leaped to his feet, his voice shrill. Objection! This is inadmissible, unverified. But Nguyen's gavel stayed silent, his eyes narrowing as he studied the evidence. A flicker of respect for Maya's command breaking through. She pressed on, presenting a recorded call from David's burner phone, his voice chilling. If the hit fails, Ellison will make sure she's locked up. The gallery erupted, reporters surging, and Ellison stood, her voice a desperate hiss. This is a lie, I'm being framed. But David's collapse, his head in his hands, betrayed their guilt, and Warner's objection was drowned by Nguyen's voice. Firm. Overruled. Continue, Mrs. Johnson. Maya's final strike was a forensic report, independently verified, confirming the prosecution's audio as a deepfake, its code traced to a firm tied to Warner's office, proof of a coordinated setup. "They thought I'd break," Maya said, her voice a vow. "But they underestimated me, my allies, and the truth." The courtroom was a maelstrom, Lena leading the cheers, activists shouting, "Maya," while David's supporters slumped, their influence fading. Nguyen's face hardened, his voice resolute. "This court will not tolerate such deception. The evidence is compelling, and a criminal investigation is warranted." The ruling was deferred, but the tide had turned. The gallery's applause a tidal wave, Lena embracing Maya, Sarah nodding with pride. Outside, Los Angeles was ablaze. Rallies swelled in Compton. Students marched downtown, their signs reading "Maya fights for us," while David's allies flooded news outlets with claims of evidence fraud, their desperation palpable. The victory was seismic, but the danger escalated. David's retaliation hit hard. A fire set at Tom's workshop. A warning note left. "You're next." Lena reported a break-in at her office. Files on David stolen. A message to silence them. At a community center, Maya spoke, her voice resonant. "They tried to destroy me, but we're stronger together. This fight is for every woman, every person judged by their skin." The crowd roared, their support a shield. But as she left, a black SUV idled nearby, its driver obscured, a threat that echoed the fire's warning. Sarah secured a meeting with the DA, presenting their evidence. But the DA cautioned, "Ellison's allies are circling. You need to protect your witnesses." Maya's heart raced. Her evidence, footage, emails, recordings, a ticking bomb. But David's wealth and Ellison's connections were a fortress. Los Angeles was a crucible, the courtroom a chessboard, and Maya Johnson was no criminal. She was a warrior, a paralegal, a beacon, her evidence a flame ready to burn through the lies, her allies, her strength as she braced for a final stand. The Los Angeles dawn broke over the city with a fiery intensity, its golden rays slicing through the haze to illuminate the Los Angeles County Family Court, a modern fortress of glass and steel where Maya Johnson stood poised at the precipice of a war that had consumed her life. Her elegant 35-year-old frame unbowed in a tailored blazer, her dark eyes blazing with the resolve that had already shattered the lies of her estranged white husband, David Johnson, and his co-conspirator, Judge Margaret Ellison. The courtroom's sleek benches were packed, the gallery a volatile mix of supporters and detractors, their murmurs a tempest as Maya prepared to face the fallout of her devastating counterattack. A hotel video, intercepted emails, a burner phone recording that had exposed David and Ellison's affair and their plot to kill her for $1 million insurance payout. A conspiracy that failed, leading to a frame job to jail her for conspiracy. Today's hearing, a pivotal ruling on Maya's countersuit for attempted murder and defamation, was a crucible where justice would either prevail or be crushed. And Maya, a former paralegal with a mind like a diamond, was ready to deliver the final strike. Judge Harold Nguyen, replacing the disgraced Ellison, sat with a calm authority, his eyes sharp as he reviewed the evidence. But David's lawyer, Charles Warner, rose, his polished veneer cracking, his voice a desperate plea. "Your Honor, the defense's claims are a malicious fabrication designed to defame Mr. Johnson and a respected judge. We have new evidence, a witness who will discredit their so-called proof." The gallery buzzed, David's Brentwood allies nodding, but Maya's supporters, activists, South LA organizers, her sister Lena, leaned forward, their eyes fierce. Warner called a woman to the stand, Emily Carter, a private investigator who claimed, "I traced the defense's footage to a known hacker, proving it's fake." Maya's heart pounded, recognizing Carter as a hired gun with ties to David's firm. Her testimony a last-ditch effort to salvage the case. The gallery's jeers, "She's a liar," swelled. But Maya stood calm, her mind a steel trap. Her lawyer, Sarah Kim, by her side, her voice low. "We're ready." Nguyen raised a hand. his voice firm. "Mrs. Johnson, respond." Maya stepped forward, her presence commanding, her voice a thunderclap. "Your Honor, Emily Carter's firm is funded by David's company, and her trace omits our forensic audit, which verifies our evidence. They're not discrediting us. They're running scared." Gasps rippled through the room, and Sarah projected a document, bank records showing payments from David to Carter's firm, timed with her testimony. Warner's face paled, his objection, "This is irrelevant," drowned by Nguyen's gavel, his voice resolute. "Overruled. Continue." Maya played a new recording, a voicemail from Ellison to David, recovered from the burner phone, her voice chilling. "If Maya talks, we're finished. Silence her witnesses." The courtroom erupted, activists chanting justice, while David's supporters booed, their influence fading. David slumped, his hands trembling, and Ellison in the gallery stood, her voice a desperate shriek. "This is a setup." But Nguyen's gaze hardened, his voice cutting. "Sit down, Miss Ellison, or you'll be removed." Maya's final blow was a sworn affidavit from a whistleblower, a clerk in Ellison's office, detailing her orders to suppress evidence in Maya's case, proof of judicial misconduct. "This is their conspiracy," Maya said, her voice a vow, her gaze piercing David's, whose fear was now palpable. "They tried to kill me, then frame me, but the truth is here and it's undeniable." The gallery roared, Lena leading the cheers, reporters surging, and Warner's face crumpled, his career unraveling. But David and Ellison fought dirty, hours before the hearing. Tom Reynolds received a death threat, his truck vandalized, a note warning, "Keep quiet or you're dead." Lena's office was ransacked, key files stolen, a message to intimidate. David's allies spread a vicious rumor online, claiming Maya had bribed witnesses, a smear amplified by local news outlets loyal to his network. The Los Angeles Times ran a front-page story, "Brentwood wife's explosive claims rock court," but David's clique flooded comment sections with hate, calling Maya unstable and vindictive. The pressure was crushing, but Maya's resolve was iron. Her allies, Lena, Tom, Sarah, a shield against the storm. At a Compton rally, Maya spoke, her voice resonant. "They tried to silence me, to break us, but we're louder, stronger, and we'll win." The crowd cheered, their signs reading Maya's truth, their applause a fortress. But as she left, a man in a hoodie approached, his voice a hiss. "You're playing with fire, lady." Maya froze, her heart racing. But Lena pulled her away, the man vanishing into the crowd. Sarah secured a meeting with the DA, presenting their evidence. But the DA warned, "Ellison's allies are pushing back. Protect your witnesses, or they'll slip away." Maya's heart thundered. Her evidence, recordings, emails, affidavits, a ticking bomb. But David's wealth and Ellison's connections were a labyrinth. The city was a crucible, the courtroom a chessboard. And Maya Johnson was no criminal. She was a warrior, a paralegal, a beacon. Her evidence a flame ready to burn through the lies. Her allies her strength as she braced for a final stand that would redefine justice in Los Angeles. The Los Angeles sunrise flooded the Los Angeles County Family Court with a radiant glow, its glass facade shimmering like a beacon of hope. But inside, the oak panelwood courtroom was a crucible of final judgment. Its packed gallery a sea of faces, activists, reporters, community leaders, and skeptics whose murmurs fell silent as Maya Johnson stood at the defendant's table. Her elegant 35-year-old frame a pillar of strength in a tailored blazer. Her dark eyes blazing with a fire that had burned through the lies of her estranged white husband, David Johnson, and his co-conspirator, former Judge Margaret Ellison. The air crackled with the weight of a trial that had transformed from a divorce dispute into a criminal expose. David's accusations that Maya had betrayed him with neighbor Tom Reynolds and plotted to murder him for $1 million insurance payout, obliterated by a cascade of evidence, hotel footage, intercepted emails, burner phone recordings, and a whistleblower's affidavit proving David and Ellison's affair and their scheme to kill Maya, thwarted only by Tom's vigilance, leading to a desperate frame job to jail her. Today's hearing, the final ruling on Maya's countersuit for attempted murder and defamation, was the moment where justice would either triumph or falter. And Maya, a former paralegal with a mind like a diamond, stood ready to seal her victory. Judge Harold Nguyen, his calm authority a stark contrast to Ellison's bias, sat poised, his eyes sharp as he addressed the court. But before he could rule, David's lawyer, Charles Warner, rose, his polished veneer shattered, his voice a frantic plea. Your Honor, the defense's evidence is a malicious fabrication, designed to ruin an innocent man. We demand a mistrial. The gallery buzzed. David's Brentwood allies, real estate moguls, socialites, nodding. But Maya's supporters, Compton activists, South LA organizers, her sister Lena erupted in boos, their signs reading Maya's truth, a defiant chorus. Nguyen raised a hand, his voice resolute. Mr. Warner, the court has reviewed the evidence. Mita Johnson, your final statement. Maya stepped forward, her presence commanding, her voice a thunderclap that silenced the room. Your Honor, David Johnson and Margaret Ellison tried to kill me, to steal my life with lies, because they thought my skin made me weak. But I'm not weak. I'm here with the truth, and it's time for justice. For me, for every woman they thought they could break. The gallery roared, activists chanting, "Justice!" As Maya, flanked by her lawyer Sarah Kim, presented a final piece of evidence, a sworn statement from a hitman, arrested after Tom's tip, confessing David hired him to stage Maya's accident, with Ellison's approval to cover it up. The courtroom exploded, cameras flashing, David collapsing in his chair, his face ashen, his hands trembling, while Ellison in the gallery stood, her voice a desperate shriek. "This is a lie. I'm innocent." But Nguyen's gavel slammed, his voice cutting. "Silence! The evidence is undeniable." Warner's objection, "This is inadmissible," was drowned by the gallery's cheers, led by Lena, her eyes shining with pride. Nguyen's ruling was swift. The theft and conspiracy charges against Maya were dismissed. Her countersuit upheld, triggering criminal charges against David and Ellison for attempted murder, conspiracy, and judicial misconduct. The courtroom emptied in a frenzy, activists embracing Maya, Tom clapping her shoulder, Sarah nodding with respect. David was cuffed, his wealth powerless, his empire crumbling as he was led away, shouting, "She framed me!" Ellison, stripped of her judicial robe, faced disbarment and arrest, her allies abandoning her, her legacy in ruins. Warner's firm collapsed under scrutiny, his complicity exposed by the hackers' recovered emails. Maya's victory was a seismic shift. Los Angeles ablaze with celebration. Compton rallies swelled. South LA churches held vigils, their signs reading "Maya won for us," while the Los Angeles Times ran a headline, "Brentwood wife's triumph exposes corruption." The community that had shunned her now sought her voice, neighbors offering apologies, Brentwood's elite silenced. Maya's story, a black woman who'd outsmarted a corrupt system, spread nationwide, inspiring talk shows, documentaries, and a legal fund for women of color, named in her honor, at a South LA community center. Maya spoke, Lena and Tom by her side, her voice resonant. "They tried to erase me, but we stood together. Black, brown, white, all of us, and we won. This is for every woman. Every person's told their less. Keep fighting." The crowd cheered, their applause a tidal wave, and Lena hugged her, whispering, "You're unstoppable." The threats, the brick, the SUV, the vandalism, faded. David's power broken. Ellison's influence gone. But Maya knew the fight against prejudice was ongoing. She rebuilt her life, her apartment a hub for activism, her voice shaping reforms in LA's courts. Los Angeles was no longer a crucible but a canvas, and Maya Johnson was no criminal. She was a warrior, a paralegal, a beacon, her legacy a call to rise, to fight, to build a world where truth outshines lies, where justice is a right, not a privilege, for all. From a slandered wife to a beacon of truth, Maya Johnson exposed a deadly plot in one justice. Thanks for listening. Like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell for more epic stories. Don't miss our next video.